your boy Nissy coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. I wanted to break down Stormzy's sound. He's a dope rapper from the UK. I want to go over how you can get those smooth, analog, very warm, but upfront, mainstream vocals. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also drop more suggestions for artists that y'all want to see down below. Okay, so let's go. Let's not waste no time no more. Let's get it right now.
Cost me half an ounce. Home record flows is guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many throughs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Now look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press and then I went and set it free. Now we the Black Beatles, let it be. Home record flows are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many throughs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press, then I went and set it free. Now we the Black Beatles, let it be.
Very, very dope lyrical rapper from the UK. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like with and without the plugins, and also I'm gonna bypass each and every plugin in and out gradually so you can hear what each and every one of them is doing. So let's look at that real fast.
Shuffle cost me half an ounce. Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many throughs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press, then I went and set it free.
Okay, so you guys got an understanding of the vocal, and let me bypass every plugin in and out real quick.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many throughs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at
I'm finna loop it real quick.
home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many throughs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press, then I went and set it free. Now we the Black Beatles, let it be. Woo. Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many throughs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press, then I went and set it free. Now we the Black Beatles, let it be. Woo. Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your men.
Okay, so now you guys got an idea of what every single plugin is doing. With somebody like Stormzy, his music is very smooth. This song right here kind of reminds me of Churchill Downs that had Jack Harlow and Drake on it. So this is the type of style of vocal we're working with. Very smooth, very lyrical, and usually a song like this, like Churchill Downs and also this song by Stormzy, doesn't really have no ad-libs too much. It's really more of a vocal that's very upfront. I did do some ad-libs, but this is how you get that warm, upfront, mainstream, very clear, very pro, very, 2020 new edition sounding vocal. I like to use something like a LA2A on a Stormzy vocal because an LA2A is something that's known for being very smooth. I also want the vocals to still be bright, but I don't want them to be harsh. So I understand that LA2A has tubes in it, and a tube has a certain way of, adjusting the top end. It does make it a little bit brighter. The LA2A does have triode tubes. I believe it has it has triode tubes in it. So the triode tubes do make it bright because they add a little bit of even order harmonics. So, when even order harmonics, triode tubes, I remember the analogy like, are you even trying to get fat? And for pento tubes, I remember it like pent odd up anchor, because pento tubes, they add odd order harmonics that make it more aggressive. So LA2A, very smooth. So it's smooth because of the tubes. It's also smooth because of the release time. It's program dependent. You don't get to adjust the release time, so it helps the vocal bump and groove.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many throughs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93.
So you hear the vocals are out of the blue kind of getting a little bit brighter, and that's a great way to approach something like a LA2A. Understand, it's not just the fact that you're compressing the vocal, it's not the fact that you're just like squeezing the vocal a little bit, the fact that you're just, you know, kind of gripping the vocal a little bit, you know, you kind of buckling up on it a little bit. It's not the fact that you made the belt a little bit tighter, but you also made it a little bit brighter by using something like a LA2A. After that, we have a REQ on Stormzy's voice. His voice is relatively, I would say, deep. You know, it kind of reminds me of you know, Biggie a little bit, because he's rapping so smooth. He kind of got that UK type of swag to him, which I like a lot. It's a, you know, a lot of times them UK rappers, they might be rapping over a drill beat, might be very aggressive, but I like this style of music because he's very smooth with a lot of swag, like grown man type of stuff. So, you know, we just really wrote off a good amount of low end, you know, somewhere at 100, but I kind of got really deep with the shape of the slope. You feel me? So this is very tight. I could have let it be loose, but it would have allowed more low end to come through the door. You know, the way you shape the cue is kind of like valet parking or a bodyguard, a bouncer in a club. You know, so the tighter you make the cue, the more stingy it is with letting people into the club. But the looser you make the cue, it allows more of the low end frequencies that, hey, you could come in, you could come in, you could come in type of situation. All right. So let's look at that real fast.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci reappeared in 93.
I'm controlling the high end in a kind of like a boost and cut situation, using the high shelf and using like a very, very, very brick wall type of, you know, low pass filter. And that this low pass filter right here is kind of bringing emphasis to the high end, right? So these two bands work together in conjunction. This kind of makes it brighter, and this kind of controls how bright I'm trying to go. After that, with Stormzy's vocal, we have a de-esser. Nothing crazy. We all know about the de-esser and what it does. It kind of just, you know, those certain words that I'm paying attention to, I like to loop them. I like to see these lyrical rappers as a situation where you want to put a highlight. You want to take like a Sharpie and you want to put a highlight on the transitions. You want to put a highlight on the flow. You want to put a highlight on the words that they're talking about, right? So I do want the consonants to come out, all the hard amounts, and especially you got to understand the language of the rapper too. How I would process a vocal in English is not the same way I would process it in Spanish, because, you know, different languages have different consonants. Like German is very and, you know, it's very like very harsh, very edgy. And then, you know, American English is one way and UK English is a different way. They have a different way of the way they say the words, but Stormzy brings a lot of swag to it.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like the
Chiseled. So listen to those words, chiseled, you know, and that's how I set my de-esser, because I know those are the words right there that are going to trigger my de-esser the most. And in order to prevent too much de-essing happening, I go to the words that have the sharpest edge. I go to the scissors that have the sharpest edge, you know, the knives that have the sharpest edges. And then I pay attention from there, you know, how hard do I want my de-esser to work? Okay, after that, we're using the C4, a pop vocal, to add a little bit of brightness to Stormzy's vocal, kind of scooping out the mid-range a little bit with a shovel. You know, I'm taking the shovel, putting it into the dirt, pretty much with Stormzy's voice. You know, I'm taking a bucket, pretty much putting it into the water and scooping out that mid-range. And then after that, of course, you know, this just brings a lot of brightness to his vocal without doing boosting EQ. I don't want to use boosting EQ on somebody like Stormzy's, because usually an upfront rapper really comes up front to the microphone, and because there's so much consonants, there's so much sharp words in the way he's rapping with precision, it could get a little bit too accurate, a little bit too annoying, a little too stingy.
home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Now look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci reappeared in 93. I found it in the press and then I went and set it free. Now we the Black Beatles, let it be.
And in order to also enhance those jaggy edges of his voice, the knee of the multiband compressor on C4 is something to pay attention to. You have the ability to go back and forth between opto and electrical, which changes the behavior, right? So I think optical is modeling more of like a LA2A behavior, not necessarily the actual sound of the compression, but how it moves, how it reacts. You know, I said the LA2A is a little bit of a slower compressor, and the electro is modeling more of an 1176. That's behavior, but the knee kind of affects the transition of the compression. So you can go all the way between soft transition or a hard transition. So I like to use a hard transition on purpose on the C4 to give a little bit more of that jagged edge, you know. It kind of gives it a situation where he turns into the Grim Reaper. He's got that little scythe, that sharp knife for his vocal and everything. So after that, we have the RVOX, and the RVOX bringing a little bit of presence. I brought the RVOX in relatively early because at that point in time, I feel like his vocal needed some body. You know, the more brightness that you start to pack on to a vocal, like with the LA2A, that's bright. With the REQ, I boosted a little top. With the C4, getting a little bit of brightness from the multiband, it will start to make the low end feel like it's a bad son or a bad little brother that's starting to become neglected because it's been acting up, you know? So it's like the good brother, which is the high end frequencies, start to shine in the light a little bit more, so it gets more attention, right? Because it's getting more attention, it's making the low frequencies, the bad little brother, feel like he's left out. So because the high end is so much sharper at this point than the low end, I use the RVOX to give a little bit of body to my low end to kind of balance them out and make them equal brothers.
Home record flows is guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all accounts. While your many furs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci reappeared in 93. I found it in the press, then I went and set it free. Now we the Black Beatles, let it be. Woo. Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all.
So that's a situation where you got to look past the volume too, right? When you hear I'm bypassing it in and out, unlike the LA2A, even when it does get compressed, you don't hear more brightness. You know, you didn't hear like that dramatic brightness that something like a LA2A will bring in. So that's something that you need to pay attention to for rappers like Stormzy or Drake. You know, Drake has some songs like this too, with those smooth type of soulful samples, right? You got to pay attention to not only how is the compression affecting it dynamically, right? Are you losing more punch? You know, how is it slowing or speeding up the rapper's flow? But you also got to pay attention to if it's making it brighter or darker, because that's another character of compressors as well. Like a CL1B, if you just open up a vocal on the CL1B, it will just kind of give it more brightness because of the components. It has tubes inside of it, and that's what tubes do. They give brightness. Okay, after that, we're using the J37 tape because I do want some warmth on Stormzy's vocal. I'm using 15 IPS, which is the flattest, it's the most neutral, and I did use a little bit of the filters because when you use tape, what will happen is sometimes the natural way that tape works, it will introduce a little bump in the low mid, making it feel a little bit congested, you know, like it walked into a doctor's appointment when it was coughing, you feel me? Or it had COVID or something like that, you know, it would make the vocal feel a little congested in the chest, in the ribs, in the heart region. So I wrote off a little bit of bottom end, let me pull it over here. I wrote off a little bit of it in the bottom end and everything like that. So let's play it with and without.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many furs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci reappeared in 93. I found it in the press, then I went and set it free.
So I'm using the tape for more of a character, more of a swag type of thing like that. You see, without the tape, it kind of felt a little bit too precise. It felt a little bit digital. It felt like that one jit in the classroom that reminded the teacher that there was homework to do. It was like, oh my God, we hate this guy. He's just so stingy. He's so on the money. He's so, oh my God, so technical. You feel me? I didn't want it to sound too technical. I wanted it to sound like it had some swag. I wanted the vocal to sound like it had a little bit of charisma. You feel me? I want the vocal to sound like, you know, it could pop up into the room and everybody's feeling the vibe. So that's why I use the tape to understand, okay, he's a smooth rapper. If he's rapping smooth, I'm gonna use a little bit of tape to bring a little bit of that swag. You know, he's kind of rapping slow and he wants to bring attention to his, you know, he's talking about his cologne and all that shit. You know, in 93, he put up like Da Vinci and all that stuff like that. You gotta use the lyrics as a cue for you as the engineer to how you gonna dress up the song. You know, what's the theme? You're a tailor. When you're an engineer, you're a tailor. It depends. How do you want to dress up the vocal? Do you want to put it in a white suit? Do you want to put it in a tuxedo? Do you want to put it in a black suit with some gray shoes? Like, you get to pick how you want to dress up a vocal, but understand it's how you dressing it up. Where is the vocal going to go to? Is the vocal going to go to a wedding? Is it going to go to a graduation? You got to understand the way you dress something up is the way it's going to be presented to a certain audience. Okay, so after that, we have the SSL channel on Stormzy's voice. I like the SSL because it's very clean, and we just working on the bottom of his vocal because, you know, his voice is so deep. At that point, we done did so much compression and so much tape. Now we kind of have a little bit too much low end building up.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many furs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Now look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press, then I went and set it free. Now we the Black Beatles, let it be. Woo!
So you just hear that a little bit of that SSL channel, so sweet. It's like I just took a little spoonful of sugar and I dumped it right on the vocal. It brings in that sweetness with the way the curves of the EQ are. We're using the fresh air to bring in a little bit of brightness, mainstream brightness.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me.
All right, so after that, we have the fresh air, and then I put a little de-esser on it just to kind of, make sure it doesn't go overboard, to tell all the brightness to chill. So we have an H delay.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found.
So whenever somebody's rapping like that, very slow, I would use a little bit of slap delay just to add a little bit of emphasis, like a little bit of a hype man behind the vocal. But the most important thing is that you don't want the delay to be too loud because you don't want it to step on his flow. So pay attention to how many repeats and everything like that with the feedback, because if you have too much feedback, it will start to step on the rapper's flow. Sometimes I might even automate the feedback on the song. If the rapper changes up his flow and he has a little bit more of space in between the bars, I might even increase it, but just only for certain lines. So after that, REQ, we have a chorus stomp. And then we also have a little bit of reverb on Stormzy's voice, just a dark plate, something to give a little space, a little vintage tone.
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out.
So nothing crazy. Use the S1 stereo imager to tuck it in the way I want to. Like, when you got a shirt, you tuck it into your pants and you put it a certain way. That's what I use the S1 stereo imager to tuck stuff in. After that, I use the J37 tape, and I use this to get a doubler effect. So I like to use the same plugin in different ways on songs to actually glue it together. So I use the J37 twice. I used it once on the lead vocal, then I used it again as a doubler. And this is good because this has like a little bit of a doubling, but also flanging in it. So it helps his vocal wobble a little bit and give a little bit of that bump and groove, that hydraulics on them Foggiatos type of sound. You feel me?
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at.
So just really applying a little bit of grease, a little bit of hair grease, a little bit of oil to the vocal just to help it slicken it up, a little bit of gel to slick it back and give it a little bit of that swag. You feel me? So I love that. Parallel compression was brought to you by the SSLE channel, and I use the 8 or ratio of 8. The more you crank up the ratio, the harder the knee is going to become. So I like to go for a higher knee on the parallel compression of the SSLE because now it's going to really start to put even more emphasis on the words. It's going to bring even more presence and even more attention to detail on all the little lyrics that somebody like Stormzy is saying. I like to use this technique for a J. Cole type of vocal, for a Drake type of vocal, a Nas type of vocal, any vocal where the rapper is just spitting some real ass shit, and I want you to feel the attention to detail to every word,
Home record floors are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Now look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press and then I went and set it free. Now we the Black.
Okay, so you guys got an understanding of that. Let's look at the ad-libs really quickly.
Home record flows is guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. While your many fruits running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I called it out. Look at me, chiseled like Da Vinci, reappeared in 93. I found it in the press.
All right, so to achieve that ad-lib sound, I used the J37 tape again because I wanted to glue my lead vocal to my ad-libs, but this time I used different settings, right? A different tape formula as well as, a slower IPS speed, which in general, a 7.5 IPS speed has a poorer high-end frequency. So it's making the ad-lib sound darker, but through saturation, all right? So after that, we have a SSL-E channel strip, and that's kind of doing like our main EQ for the ad libs, rolling off a lot of mid range, a lot of bottom, doing a filter, rolling off a little top, and getting a little compression.
Home record flows are guaranteed to make your partner bounce. There's a horror up in all counts. Why your many furs running O's that we started out. I saw Angel in the marble and I counted out. Look at me, chisel like Da Vinci.
And I click this button right here, fast attack. So the fast attack, what it does is it will make the SSL-E compressor a little bit more grabby. So that's a lot better for something like ad-libs, because once you grab onto that initial transient of an ad-lib, it will kind of send it back a little bit more. And that release time is how do you want it to spring? How fast do you want it to spring back to recovery? Okay, so cool. After that, we have an RVOX to give more presence, a little REQ to roll off a little bottom and boost this little transient right here, this little high mid energy, so you can still hear what he's saying. Usually, if you get aggressive with the high end filter like this and you start rolling it off, you know, like people usually do their ad libs like this, you might like lose what the rapper is saying. So I only do this when I need to do it. You feel me? But that's pretty much the end of the video that I have here today for y'all YouTube. I just want to say thank you very much for being a great part of my YouTube family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you do like the Stormzy template, you can check it in the link down below. Go ahead and grab it so you can get that warm, analog, mainstream type of sound. Just want to say thanks a lot. Please, please suggest more artists in the link down below, and I'm happy to get to them right away, ASAP. Appreciate y'all now, YouTube. Peace.